are handicapping their children.
The school parents aren't educated. Like a lot of people, I know that sounds like really crazy.
No, not to me.
No, but I know some parents might take offense, but a lot of parents they're not knowledgeable on it. So like when they get that piece of paper, they may be thinking that they're doing their child a favor. Like like he's educated, he knows what he wants for his kids. A lot of parents don't. A lot of parents are like laid back parents.
You know that
so
your child needs a grade. I wouldn't care if you didn't have an education yourself.
But you got to think about you think they formatted. You think they formatted it like that on the paper? Did you read? Did it say exactly that, or did it say that in so many words? Because I know point blank, no district starts off good. So instead of us testing your students the standardized way, we're gonna go about it different. They always make it so that the parent. I've sat down with parents and had to explain to them what was on the paper.
Oh yeah, the first three paragraphs of it was nonsense.
Exactly.
So
you gotta think about it like that.
Yeah. And then what that does, so let me tell you, and see, this is where when you and I have our back and forth, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about, right? So you had to read through 3 paragraphs of gobbledygook to get to the issue, right? You got time because you're self-employed. Your wife is retired. Y'all got time to read the gobbledygook. I barely got time to get the food on the table, get the kids to school. I got to give them to some games if they want some recreation. Okay. I don't have time to read all. What is this? Okay, fine.
So look, the time you read the first paragraph, you think you're doing your child a favor because that's what it's saying.
Because of course they make it sound great.
Yeah, the first paragraph is saying that you're going to help your child level up. This is going to make it a
socially equitable.
Right. This is helping us through the pandemic. We feel sorry for you. So the first 3 paragraphs that you had time to read sounds like you're benefiting your child.
Oh, well, then of course I'm going to opt in.
Right, you're going to opt in like, oh yeah, this is helping my kid. The next page tell you that your child is not going to do standardized testing. So you didn't get that far along. Like a lot of people be quick to say like, but sometimes it's as simple as they wrote something on the paper and it sounded good.
Another thing that I want, and I think because this is a point that I want to make too, is that oftentimes people talk about parents don't get involved in the PTAs in the schools and the inner city and stuff like that. And that's true. We got to remember that a lot of these parents were students in these same schools where they were not treated nicely, they were not talked to nicely, and they still have. Do you know how many people are walking around today with that inner child that's still wounded? Still, that's that little bitty inner me that, listen, I had a lady, a coworker, as distraught. We were having a conversation, grown people working for a prestigious law firm in the city of Los Angeles. And this lady, when she was in kindergarten, the teacher let the other little girl play with the blocks and not her. And let me tell y'all something, she was upset. Listen, we in our late 20s, and homegirl is crying as if that shit happened yesterday. So just imagine being a parent, and you going back to that same school, okay? You had your baby at 15. It ain't been that long ago. Miss So-and-so still the principal.
Right.
She's still mean to me. That heifer was mean when she was the dean. Okay, I don't want to see her ass. And now I got to go up in here and try to advocate. Mind you, I got a middle school down the street from my office that has not functioned at grade level for the past 40 effing years. So that means they not educating them for 40 years. So she in that 40-year span.
Right.
She half educated. She can half understand some of the words, but she don't really get all of that. She gonna go in there and she gonna argue with the educators. They gonna go and they gonna belittle her the same way they belittled her when she was a student.
And now she gotta get escorted off by the police.
Exactly. Because what she do know.
She already had a mindset. She didn't like me, so she ain't gonna like you because you're my daughter.
But guess what? Listen, she does know the difference in the energy. Period. Whether she's right or wrong, right? Whether she's right or wrong, she knows. And like you said, so now I'm escorted off because I know you disrespected me.
I just don't know how.
I can't even sit here and explain it to you because I've been traumatized, and so now they don't even bother to participate. Or let's talk about, the hardworking parents that's out there working 2 jobs because you can't live off a minimum wage in almost no city in the country. and I gotta work 2 jobs, and I gotta do that just to keep some food in their mouth and some clothes on their back so they can come to this school. That they gonna arrest me if I don't send you to school. So all of these things considered, you got all of these elements. So no, they're not participating in the PTA.
They don't have the time.
They don't have it, and listen, I'm gonna tell you something. We had a group of young people in the 90s. They were called the Power Youth. And they used to they dealt with environmental issues and all sorts of things. And one of the things that they dealt with was schools, and the education system. And the one thing that they found in their research was that the parents were not encouraged or made to feel welcome to come onto the campus in schools.
Yeah.
They're not encouraged. They are actually discouraged. Things are put in place to make it difficult for them and to make them feel unwelcome.
Yeah, first of all, the gates are locked. I'm at the school. The gates are locked. They got like 17 tables out here before you even get to the door.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
You gotta have your ID.
Yeah, you got there's so much stuff before you even get to the door.
Right.
So of course I don't even want to come up here.
No parking.
Yeah. And if you park right here before you get out the car, your
Well,
car towed.
Right.
Your car's towed.
And I can't afford for my car to be impounded because I gotta go to work. I don't have but 20 minutes to do this.
Then when
Period.
you do press the buzzer 9 times 10 times they don't answer.
They're not answering. Right.
You gotta walk through a metal detector.
Right.
You know
And so all of this welcoming apparatus, right? And then now I'm barely literate because literally they haven't been teaching me in my community for 40 years. Okay? And so now it's like, okay, I'm just not even going over there. I'm not even going to see about that. And that's part of the problem. Because they could do to them anything. And like you said, that language, you put it in this letter. And another thing, so let's talk about when people say, I can remember when we first started doing things, we had to start translating everything into Spanish as well as English, which makes sense. Except for the fact you got to realize that some people that speak Spanish are not literate in Spanish either.
Yeah.
They're not literate in Spanish.
Yeah.
That's true.
And you also have to factor that what is taught in school as Spanish is not what they speak.
Yeah. Like I have a minor in
Spanish, right.
So if I talk to someone who is a Spanish speaker, we're not fluent. I don't understand what they're saying because they speak in broken Spanish. They teach us proper Spanish.
Right.
Oh, okay, so that's
Yes.
Spaniards speak proper Spanish.
Right.
Okay.
People from Central America, South America, they're speaking whatever, like us, with slang and ebonics or whatever they're talking.
Okay, so
And so
Spanish?
this is what I would want you. This is how I would describe it to you. I want you to think about taking a person from a prestigious law firm in downtown LA, an attorney. Let's say he's a partner in the firm. You can imagine the kind of language that he speaks. He's graduated from Harvard.
Right.
He's worked his way through. He's now a partner in the firm.
Or she.
Yes.
Well, college.
And we're going. That means y'all doing good right here. Y'all doing good, right? And now you have him speak to the person that grew up in the trailer park in Mississippi. Never been to a formal class.
Not gonna click.
The conversation, let's just think dialect. Let's just think accent. Let's just think somebody from New Orleans. New Orleans. What did you just say? In the bed. Okay, listen, I know from Philadelphia we have an accent.
And hold up. If you don't start the conversation with Miss, they already tuned out. Miss, Mister, if you don't come, like my they Creole, if I don't start the conversation with, hi, Mister, they tuned out.
Okay?
You been not sitting too long, baby.
Right? And so just think, and I want to say, see, what you said sounded like highly educated people. I'm talking about the people I saw on a documentary who was bathing their babies in the bucket out front.
Left school in 6th grade.
Left school in the 6th grade. Only been in the backwoods.
Yeah.
Trying to, now you want to have, who's going to teach that English
and not
to a foreigner? Who's going to teach that English? What they're going to teach is the man down at the thing. It's proper English. It's, you know, it's,
Not working.
okay? But this person here may or may not understand that.
And on top of that, you have to break through their generational curses too. So like me personally, my grandma, her education stopped at 3rd grade. She's from Arkansas. She came down here and that's where it ended. So they don't teach. She didn't teach me to go to college. She didn't teach me to further my education. So now I'm talking to this young lady who maybe never experienced that, maybe knew how higher education worked. Her grandma was a maid.
Mm-hmm.
Like my grandmother was a maid and a school, a little babysitter. So
Okay.
that's what she taught us. Like, you gotta cook. You gotta learn how to cook. That's how you gonna make money. You gotta learn how to clean. You gotta learn how to white wall. She didn't teach us how to go to college,
study.
go to school. School was not on her radar. So that homework, not important. You need to learn how to wash walls.
Get in this kitchen and
That's
get
what
it.
you need to learn how to do. I knew how to make grits before I knew how to probably tie my shoe or something.
Right.
Because that's
Right.
what.
And you know what's funny about that is my mom was raising me and my 2 brothers by herself. None of us know our birth dad. When she married my stepfather, that was the first time I was 10. That was the first time I'd ever seen a black man who spoke English, who was like self-assured. He was in the army, and the way he talked to us, we were stunned. I remember me and my brothers went back and we were like, "Yo, did you see that guy?" Like, we were stunned that he came into, because we were the country. He came in the hood, everybody staring at him because he was already 6'8" and just this big dude. And when you were talking about education, right? At the age of 10, he takes me from backwoods Clarksville, Tennessee, to Germany, to a military base, to a school in a military community. I walked in there at 10. First day, the teacher took me to the office and called my dad. Said, "Hey, I don't know where he came from. 1, we can't understand him. 2, he can't read, and he doesn't know how to write." I can remember going to school in Tennessee where in my classroom, there was 8 or 9 black kids, and across the hall, there was 10 or 12 white kids, and there was a teacher in there, and we were in our classroom all day with no teacher.
Wow.
I remember that, and that's in the 60s. I remember sitting in class, literally, when we got off the bus, the white kids got off the bus first. They went to their class, the teacher came in, put a book on our desk, opened the page, and went right across the hallway. Didn't say anything to us. And we would literally sit and look across the hallway. First period would change. Everybody else changes classes. Guess what we did?
Stay right there.
8 periods a day. So when I got to Germany, I was that kid, literally. I spoke in such a heavy backwoods country dialect. So that 5th grade year was kind of lost. I had to go to summer school. Then I came back for 5th grade again, had to go to summer school. It took me 2 years to catch up just to get into 6th grade. And then my learning accelerated. But for my stepdad, I'd be just like she was saying, because we didn't get taught anything. There was generations of us. I knew all my cousins.
Yes.
None of them knew how to read.
Exactly.
None of them knew how to write. And if my stepdad didn't come along, that was me.
And this is why, and then, so now I want to transition that to talk about how you not being able to read, how you say it affected you, and it made you angry because they teased, they did all kinds of things.
Taught me how to fight.
Right, because you started learning how to fight because he was defending himself from being bullied for not being able to read or being made fun of. And in reality, so this is why I say there are so many ways, like I said, we always go back and forth about the state of, in particular, our black people in our community and what our parents don't do and what we do and all those kinds of things. There are so many ways that it is, because it looks like, to me, this whole opting out thing or opting out of being graded, to me, is a Trojan horse. It's a wolf in sheep's clothes saying, "Oh, this is better for your kids."
I went through the 4th, 5th, and 6th in 2 weeks, and I missed a week and a half.
Okay, and they passed him along, and so this social promotion is actually, they started that in LAUSD some years ago, well, we just don't want to embarrass them, so we're going to promote them, but they still don't know what's going on.
It's just creating a permanent underclass of workers.
A permanent underclass. And then America wonders why we don't have enough workers for the jobs that are there, because you're not educating, you're not willing to spend the little bit of money it would take to educate your population. Like you said, it costs way less money to educate a child than it does to incarcerate them.
Yeah.
But let me tell you what the difference is. When you educate a child, they think and see possibility.
Mm-hmm.
When you incarcerate them, they're labor.
The best thing my stepdad ever taught me was to be black and educated.
Right? What were you gonna say?
Always, that's all he said. That's
I
all he
like
said.
I like what Germany does.
Mm-hmm.
When they get to high school,
Mm-hmm.
they figure out pretty much what they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? What kind of job they want. And they will send them to a factory
Mm-hmm.
that does what they want to build and it's a half a day in school, half a day at the factory. But when he finished school, he's guaranteed a job at that factory and he's guaranteed it for life.
And this is the thing, what that says is that's a society that values all of their citizens,
Yeah.
not just a select few of their citizens.
Mhm.
That they set up that everybody has an opportunity to succeed. If you fail, it's because you choose to, because you have the opportunity to either be employed,
Well,
to get training.
Not 100% true.
Mhm.
Because if you opt out of either one of those, the educational track or the work track, there's no safety net for you.
Right.
There's no, you can go to the employment office, you can go to
Right.
welfare.
Yeah, no.
They're like, you going to work or you're going to educate and then work.
That's why I
No.
said
Yeah,
if you fail, it's because you chose to, because you had opportunity
Except
on either
here, if you
side.
fail, there's all these safety outlets for you.
Right.
And there, the society is just structured. You're going to do something to help
Something.
society.
Right.
Or you're just going to fall into
Well,
obscurity.
and
There's
for
no,
me, and I'm so okay with that.
oh yeah.
I'm so okay with that because you give me the opportunity on a level playing field that if I choose to educate myself, I choose to go to college route, I have that available. And I know my niece that grew up in Germany had to stay in school till she said she was 21. She didn't have to pay for all of that either. You see what I'm saying? So they invest in it and give them the opportunity. And then we're here, we charge for everything. And so even if I opt in to get graded, I go ahead and take the SAT and the ACT. I score 1,600 on the SAT, but I don't have no money to get in school, right?
But now,
So now I'm
they have
still
this stuff.
back behind.
But now when you go to the elementary schools, they have it all around, like in the auditorium, luncheon or whatever. They have all the different colleges for the kids and stuff, like all around the little bad.
To encourage it.
Yeah, they really are trying, but they do it in a way that for the ones that they think are gonna make it.
Well,
And I don't
What
like that
about
part.
the kids in China and stuff
Noreen.
that are, looking to get at the top of the list? You know what I mean? Because to be down here is shameful for your parents and everything else. I mean, the kids study there. They
You know,
don't.
our society's not built that way, though.
Yeah.
Well,
now
yeah,
here-
and if you think about the nature of our society, it is not necessarily, in other words, the notion that America is built on merit, it's a meritocracy, is just not true. Meaning, it's not on your merit necessarily that you can be put in position.
It's mostly built on nepotism.
It mostly built on nepotism, and so the reality is that, and that's also why things are so out of whack. But the problem with the hierarchy now is that there's a law of physics that is just what it is. If you continue to take from the bottom and never put anything down there, eventually it's going to topple. And because they're too stupid to invest a little bit in the bottom, not in the sense of giving them a check to get them through COVID, but in the sense of giving them an education so that they can do for self.
Teach
Okay.
them to fish.
Teach them to fish, right? Instead of doing that, they find that to be more detrimental because they've been blowing smoke for so many years into people, making poor people think that the others are their problem instead of the real power source. So there's so much dynamic to trying to keep that system in place. But the reality is that when it comes to education, our children, you know, in our communities, if you look at, and I've had, old hardcore gang members. These are people who were generals, okay, said to me, I've had two actually tell me that when they were in school, if the girl's position was, oh, I only date the smart guys, they'd have had their ass in there on the books.
Wow.
They'd have had their ass in the books. All the women, I'm telling you, close your legs unless he's smart. I'm giving you that one for free tonight. Normally I charge for that, okay? So keep your legs closed unless he's smart, okay? Trust me, he gonna go get smart. If he ain't, he gonna find out a way to get it if he trying to get in your panties. And look, make sure he get it before he get the panties too, because y'all told me on no uncertain terms, whatever you want, you better get it before you give up the draws. And I believe that, okay? So now, but just think about that in our communities. Think about how we are fed systematically over and over again. We talked about the music industry and how if I know groups that were positive that got deals, and what the record companies did is they put them on a shelf. So their music never gets put out anymore. They were doing well before they got the record deal. And now you haven't heard a thing from them. They had a following, they were doing shows, they had built up all of this. Record company took them, put them on the shelf, heard nothing from them since then. So you program into a community, you showed, when you talked about only never having seen until your stepfather, never seeing a black man, think about being in the hood, think about in the projects in Southeast where you worked, okay? Think about what those children see every day.
I know what they saw. I saw
Right?
it every day too.
Right? So what happens is, who is the example? Where's the guy that gets up every day, puts his stuff on, and goes to work? Okay? He can't do that because the school ain't been educating him. He in the 9th grade, but they stopped teaching him in the 2nd grade.
Keep getting up every day, get dressed, going out
On the corner.
Yeah.
And so that's what they aspire to. And the ones who make it and I see it, and the ones that make it, they got the fancy car and got all the girls, that's who they aspire to be. Because that's all they see. Where when I grew up in the projects in Philadelphia, we still had 2-parent households where people got up and went to work. So I knew what it looked like even in the 60s for people to get up and go to work every day. I tell people when I teach career readiness, I tell young people, this is how I learned that you're not supposed to have personal phone calls at work. Call my mother on her job. AT&T, may I help you? Hey mom, some nonsense, some bullshit. Can I have some popsicles, whatever? My brother's eating all the popsicles, whatever nonsense I'm calling about. You called me out of my job? I can't have all these personal phone calls on the job. Don't call me. Your brother just called me 20 minutes ago. These people don't want me to have all this stuff. Click. That's how I learned that you weren't supposed to have personal phone calls on the job. So when I went on the job, and the people tell me, Miss Williams or McClendon, whichever I was at the time, you have too many personal phone calls. I didn't get mad at the people. I stopped having a personal phone call. Because I knew you ain't supposed to have personal phone calls. I thought they just didn't mind. But the reality was I had an example ahead of that. So I knew that there was something to that, and they weren't just dissing me. What did you want to say?
I was just gonna say it's actually a catch-22.
Mm-hmm.
Like kind of like what you've been saying. So like the world rewards bad behavior regardless of how you say it. So like just how you guys were saying like the Germany stuff, then what you do wouldn't be available. Free to heal, that wouldn't be available because they would have no resources because they already chose to mess up. That wouldn't give them the second chance that they needed. And then like how you say like even with the women thing, like close your legs. Who have the most visitors? Prisoners. People who work at law firms, they wives don't bring them lunch. But a prisoner, they gonna have. You heard of this? That man who spent.
He had 3 wives. He had 3 wives like, in the pen. When in 18, they had 3 wives.
Exactly.
Look, I ain't have but 1 husband. Look, I can't even find a boyfriend. You know what I'm saying? He had 3 wives from behind the wall, boo. I don't look like him though. Look.
Right. It's harder to give rewarded when you're doing right than
Yes.
it's more applauded.
It's one of the things that you described too about the child who, no matter what kind of attention they get, even they're misbehaving because the misbehaving at least gets them some attention. Somebody's paying attention at some level, even if it's negative attention. And so all of these things contribute to what we see. So I say, yes, I have never ever, as you said to me before, I have never let any of those things, the color of my skin, the fact that I'm a female, stand in my way. I just keep fighting.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that they don't put extra obstacles in my way. It doesn't mean that I didn't have to act a fool. And when I say that, I mean I had to tell a lady in a meeting who insisted that she was going to bypass me and talk to my staff person because I was just a woman. And I had to let her know, let me tell you something, don't you never, long as you live and got an asshole point to the ground, disrespect me like that. I'm in charge over here. I am the executive director, the program director, okay? And you're dealing with me. He works for me. So there's a level of that. It doesn't mean that didn't come, but guess what? 25 years later, now we almost we opened this in 2014, 8 years later, and here we sit. But it meant that there was a tenacity that had to be there. And the belief that we could still do it, that belief is beat out of so many people at such a young age anymore. That you can actually do something or accomplish something or be something. That thought and notion is beat out. And when you listen to, like I said, go back to music and even the images that you see on television. And I want to say it's not even just for poor people. Wealthy people are misrepresented as well, because not every wealthy family in the world will mistreat their children behind the money that they're trying to save in the family.
Actually, it's different. So with wealthy people, when you see wealthy high schools, like let's just say Culver City or whatever, those students are different because since they are given opportunity or since they come from an affluent neighborhood, they don't have the same grind ethic. They don't have the same desire. So you would think like Culver City has the highest college acceptance rate. They students don't even apply to colleges because it's like, oh, my dad owned El Torito. What do you mean? You know,
but this is what I want to say though. But I'm gonna use this TV show. I'm watching the TV show, and then I'm gonna take those of us that's old enough to remember back a ways. I binge watched over the holiday Succession, which is a story about a man who has a $1 billion business. He has 3 kids, and the issue is who's going to succeed him and take over the company. Well, the father is such a narcissist, and he's so used to having the power, he can't let go. But what he does to his children, the way that he treats his children, and he speaks to them, the things that he does to them is so disgraceful. And I'm saying that to say, and even all the way back to those of us that's old enough to remember Dallas, who shot JR, right? They were horrible to each other behind money. It was all about the money in the family versus how they treated each other. So, but not all, my point is that not all wealthy families function like that. Not every wealthy family is so hung up on who's going to get the money from the family that they start pitting the children against each other and this and that. They have their own set of curses, trust me. Everybody got their own level of dysfunction. No, there's no such thing as a perfect anything. So yes, they have it, but this is the thing. I'm just saying that media, they take the basest, the lowest of any category, and that's what they feed through the idiot box and through media and so on. So now in our community, with our music and stuff, it's glorifying lean, drugs, Molly, psychotropic drugs and all this kind of stuff. And so therefore, this is what young kids who are being raised by social media and so on and so forth.
They know every song.
And they know all the words and they know what they're talking about. I can't half understand what they're saying half the time, but the kids understand it. And so but I'm saying that to say that is one thing, but not all poor people live like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not every not everybody growing up in the hood grew up ducking and dodging bullets.
No.
Right.
I didn't grow up dodging bullets.
No.
That's just not the case.
No.
It's just not, I cannot sit here and say to anybody, even growing up in the projects, that I have a sad case story or I never missed a meal.
Right.
My
Bills always been paid.
the lights was on, the food was in the refrigerator or the Frigidaire, depending on where I'm from. It was in there.
Icebox.
Don't go to the ice box. I ain't gonna play with you with that ice box. And
That's what I always heard.
my uncle had a 38-foot boat that we went to. Okay, I'm probably one of the only people in the project went yachting on the damn weekends.
No, but
Okay,
you gotta remember,
so
everybody had, growing up back in the 70s and all that stuff, everybody had different elements. Like me, for instance, I had my mom's side of the family and my dad's side of the family. Okay, my granny and my grandpa, they had like a little more things, you know what I'm saying, like material things.
Mhm.
So we had a swimming pool in the backyard, we had a pool table, and a lot of my friends, they never even went swimming.
right,
You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
so it's just like, you had different dynamics. It depends on how your family were already that taught you the steps where you needed to go.
Yeah.
But this is
You know
the
what
thing,
I'm
and that's what I'm saying is that's exactly my point, is that in no level, at no economic level, racial, nothing, there's no one monolithic,
No.
everybody's the same.
And I'm going to tell you guys offline
Uh-huh.
names, but I've worked for security for the wealthiest
Mhm.
person
Mhm.
in California
Mhm.
and for the most well-known couple in the world.
Okay.
Two of the most dysfunctional
Mhm.
families
Okay.
I've ever
See.
come across.
See.
And that's why when me and you have our conversations about, oh, we can't do this and we can't do that, I don't buy any of it.
Right.
Life is what you make it with the opportunity you have. And when people keep sitting around talking about, oh, woe is the black community, fuck that.
And at some level you and I agree. And at some level you and I agree. Where we tend to diverge is where I say you can't just write them all off as that everybody should be able to overcome all of those obstacles that were placed in their way. That's the only difference. That's where you and
I don't say everybody should be able to overcome all of them, because I haven't overcome all of the obstacles
Right.
that are put in my path.
Well.
But like I'm of her mindset. I don't
Yeah.
quit.
Yeah.
Right. And I didn't either.
If I get to the T in the road and there's a wall here and a wall here, I'm trying to see which one is the shortest
wall
one.
to go over. Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I totally agree with every time she says something.
But this is
it
what I
makes
want
sense.
you to understand, though. This is what I want you to understand.
Don't tell me nothing
Work with
crazy.
me. Work with me.
Uh-uh.
Well, if it came out of my mouth, it's probably too late for that. But
Old people.
I want you to think about this. The 10-year-old before your stepfather came into your life, if you never had him to expose you, you never had him to show you another way, you never had him to take you out of there in that situation, how would you ever have known? Right?
I would have wound up like all my cousins.
So this is what I'm saying to you. All of them, there's nothing wrong with them. They're not bad people. They're not bad people. Some of them don't even know, even if they want to do something different, where they're not educated, there are no opportunities. The land that we sit on right now used to be a Goodyear factory.
But you know why I still disagree with that? Because the 60s and the 70s were one thing. In this age, where opportunity is literally picking this up, this thing has more power than all of NASA when they started the space race. So everybody's got one of these.
Yeah.
If you're walking around with a fucking $1,000 iPhone and you are not seeking out opportunity, no, not
You don't
today.
even-
In the 60s and the 70s, yes. Maybe in the 80s, yes. Now,
But you don't even.
No.
This is the thing.
I ain't falling
This is
for
the
it.
thing. This is
I
again.
ain't
This is where I
falling
say.
for it.
This is where I say. This is the only other thing I say, and we're gonna wrap it up right here. But I just say this: if you don't even know that there is something different, and you don't, even if you think it and you have no idea where to start, okay, and so you're in a terrible way, and so a lot of people fall into that place, and so I just want to say. I want to give everybody a chance. Last thoughts. Any last thoughts?
Just keep your mind open, people. Don't try to put everything in a box and feel that that's what it is, because that's not what it is. Keep your mind open and be grateful.
Gotcha.
Screw 'em.
I didn't do that.
I just want to, we had a campaign, I'm gonna send all you guys the video for it, but Prison 60, this is several years ago, Prison 62.
I need you to take that off and be able to speak up because they're not gonna be able to hear you.
Okay, we had a campaign several years ago, Prison $62,300, and for the school year it was only $9,100.
Wow.
Okay? So this is where we invest. This is where America's choice in investment shows up, okay? Because if they put $63,000 a year into every student that was in them 5 or 6 kids that was in your classroom in the backwoods of Mississippi, if they took half of it, just half of it, and so that you could have the decent book. I mean, you could a teacher, hell, right? If they took half of it, those kids would have had a much better start and a much better opportunity. Any last thoughts from you?
You're only bound by the limits of your imagination, right?
That's true.
And this world is a battlefield of the mind. If you have access to any technology that connects you to the internet, you are 1,000 years ahead of every human being that ever lived before you. If you're not taking the opportunity, instead of going to Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all the other shit you do, figure out a way to propel yourself and prepare yourself for the next 20 years. Because the power of the world is in your hand.
I love that
Because there's no other way to say it.
I love that because what we are about in this whole free to heal is how to heal. And what are the tools, what are the practical steps we can take to heal? And that's a practical step. That's a practical step. You can use that phone to educate yourself about things. You can use that phone to learn how to read. If you got some basics down, you can get on there and there's enough tutoring and enough different things that you can get from that phone.
And how much wealth is created by these things?
Exactly.
I know people walking around right now with Instagram accounts that are generating $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a month.
Right.
Stop with it. It's
Right,
nonsense.
exactly. So that is, that's good. Any last thoughts?
Send me out of here with something good, girl.
I would just end on, I think the key from the conversation, from what you do, Free to Heal, is just based all on perspective. I feel like a lot of people, we're all victims. We're all victims of something, but you gotta take that pain and turn it into change. Yeah, you gotta channel it. And I feel like we can't be victims of the negatives or the negativity that succumbs in our life, because at the end of the day, it's like no matter you black, white, Mexican, Hispanic, rich, poor, whatever it is, everyone's gonna fall short somewhere. So if you gotta change the perspective, you can't look at yourself and be like, my mama in jail, my daddy in jail, that leaves me in jail. You can look at it as my mama in jail, my daddy in jail, how can I not be different? You gotta, it's all about the perspective. And if you lead with that right there could change what your yesterday was from today. And you can't, whatever happened in your past, you can't remake that. But your future, that's the only thing you have control over. So if you shift your perspective, your mindset, that's where you're able to be free to heal.
And this is one of the reasons why checkout in my groups are so important. Because the gems and the jewels that come out in checkout may not come out during the course of the conversation. So my final thoughts in checkout would be education is important. Make sure that your kids know that they're cared for, that they're loved, and that they have options. Don't limit yourself by your mind. Don't think there's only one way for the Creator to bless you. There's only one opportunity. If the door closes, look for another door to open. If it's not a door, look at the window. What you must do is have a perspective that you can succeed, that you can be something. Everybody has an opportunity. I don't care whether your parents was incarcerated, your grandparents before them, and your grandparents before them. Somehow somebody was out enough to make you and bring you into this world, and you have the opportunities. So again, I want you to check us out please leave comments in the comment section. Check us out on Facebook, check us out on Instagram, Twitter. Leave us comments anywhere that you would like to. We really appreciate it. And I just want to thank the folks that are here for the honest conversation, and we'll talk to you next week.